Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today is, what is it today?
It's Warlock Wednesday.
Warlock
Hey,
Wednesday.
best day of the week. Devil horns. Woo! Uh, all metal, all the time. It's what warlocks are gonna be about.
Speaking of metal, today we cover the Eldritch Invocation, Lifedrinker.
It really does sound either like the album or the hit single from an album of like a Black Sabbath or something. It's great. What's not to love? Also known as TikTok or YouTube, depending on your generation. This is a 12th level Pacta Blade feature. Pacta Blade prerequisite invocation. And it says when you hit a creature with your pact weapon, it takes extra damage equal to your charisma modifier, minimum of 1. So if you don't have a charisma mod, which I wouldn't take this if you don't have a charisma mod, it does 1 damage per hit. More likely, it's doing 5 damage per hit because that's a capped charisma score. So
Do not
that's
have a charisma mod if you're a warlock.
I mean, like you can do it, but it's
Yeah.
very specific, and it definitely isn't a Pacta Blade. Well, might be a Pacta Blade build actually. It's not important. Don't take it if you don't have a high charisma.
Yeah.
Easy.
Notably, one thing it does not do, drink life.
Oh, it doesn't drink life. That's a great point. You don't get any extra AP or anything. This is just raw damage. It has almost nothing to do with life or drinking.
Yeah, when I saw it, I thought it was going to be like a vampiric touch kind of feature, but no, I mean,
Instead, it just lies to you and says it does
yeah,
one thing and then does something else. It sounds
it's better,
yeah.
if it kind of did like half and half, maybe that would be cool, but no, probably not.
This is not a particularly interesting one to talk about, but it is fine. This is the third attack. I just used triple quotes. Third attack invocation that you get post Thirsting Blade. So like the idea is you get Thirsting Blade and the blade thirsts for blood, and then you get Lifedrinker, which empowers the Thirsting Blade, and then that's
Hey, you know what?
the
That
narrative cohesion.
that works then. Your
Sure.
blade is drinking the life, I suppose.
Certainly isn't. It's definitely getting exactly no liquids into it. It's not soaking anything up. There's no sips happening here. Your blade is still just killing people. There's no drinking happening.
But it's a thirsting blade. It thirsts for the enemy's blood,
Sure, and
and
it's not
now
drinking any of it.
but it's doing what it wants to. That's not what a blade wants from blood. It doesn't want to absorb it. It just wants to spill it. It
Sure.
is sating its thirst.
What if we called it life spiller instead and spilt the blood instead of drunk it? That's what that
Not as cool.
definitely not. We get the fantasy, I think. I get the fantasy. It's just a little bit underwhelming. I mean, 10 plus 10 damage is great. This is how you scale in the mid tiers towards the upper tiers with the extra attacking warlock builds. You're definitely going to start seeing some cracks show through on this build. Like you're going to be leading heavily on your Mystic Arcanums basically as soon as you get 6th, 7th level of Mystic Arcanums. So like in combat, you're going to have one big splashy action that's going to be a spell cast and then a pretty solid extra attack every turn. With the Hexblade improvements that they got, that's a pretty solid build, but you can also do other blade lock things where, Fiend Blade locks with a great sword, cutting things on fire, Lifedrinker, reflavoring it to be, the big angry demon blade. That's a pretty satisfying fantasy that you can kind of have delivered here. I like that this is at least unique in the form of Rangers have to wait till 17th level to add or 20th level, one of the super high levels to add their Wiz mod onto hit. All Rangers just get that. You get at 12th levels of Warlocks, there's this feels like a better melding of the fantasies between casting and melee. This feels like a better melding of your spellcasting modifier is enhancing your damage and your weapon attacks too. That is a pretty clean and easy way to do it, and it's good.
That's something we recently talked about Eldritch Knight, and that's sort of the effect I was hoping for somewhere in there, but did not get. So,
Really.
For that reason, I like this a lot.
Because I think if you buy into the fantasy and make staple your own fantasy on top of this, that's where it's going to be a lot more fun. I think if you don't have the drive or willingness to flavor, and you're not in a space where you're able to make custom particle effects, if you will, attached to your weapons and really sell the fantasy you're going for, this is going to feel a lot more like a passive martial improvement. And that's honestly not the end of the world. I definitely think it's a lot more fun whenever you flavor the necrotic damage as, evil dark mists rising from your blade, or, even like refluffing it as fire damage and having it the sword literally be on fire is pretty freaking sweet. Like, there's definitely a lot of cool directions you can take Lifedrinker as far as the aesthetic that empowers your evil demonic weapon, assuming you don't have like a magic weapon. But I mean, you could do Lifedrinker to a magic weapon as long as it make it your pack weapon and stuff. And you're still gonna have all the problems of like blade locks having so much higher of an invocation tax because they need thirsting and this, but that's still, and you have to take a bad pact, but it's still like a reasonable upper tier feature where you're like, okay, I'm giving up some of the flexibility of Warlock in order to hit a little bit harder, and it's usually going to be worth it to help you keep scaling.
Look at it that way. I don't look at you have to take a bad pact. I'm thinking you already took Pact of the Blade for whatever reason.
Sure, you've already been scammed.
you have your reasons. Having done that, this is that's no longer a cost. That's something you intentionally did before, and now this is something cool to do with it.
Yeah, that's absolutely reasonable. I think I would have loved to see Pact of the Blade have Thirsting Blade tied into it, and then this feels a lot more like an upgrade to me on that, because having to take extra attack as an invocation does kind of feel kind of crappy, especially whenever Pact of the Blade is almost a non-feature. So like you're left, I still feel pretty bad whenever I'm looking at like, oh wow, I'm not having these two cool invocations on my list because I have to take the ones that let me function. But I guess that's gonna be a difference of perspective pretty regularly, right? There's not a lot to say about it. It's +5 damage on 2 hits. Sure, that's pretty great. What's not to
Maybe
love?
+5 damage on 2 hits.
Yeah, if you play level 12, especially as casters, you tend to want to max out your charisma as fast as you can. This does kind of compete if you're playing a blade lock, because you also want to max out your dex. I say dex because that's tends to be the preferred stat for walks because it adds to your AC too. But you could do it with strength builds too, where you have like a 20 strength and you're in a little bit of a weird zone where I'm balancing. I want a 20 in strength and 20 in charisma, so I can have really big powerful weapon attacks and a good spell casting save DC. That's going to be a little bit of a juggling act if you're in a character that happened to roll really, really well. If you're doing rolled stats, or like you just deliberately sunk everything and started with 2 16s, you're going to probably have a fine time with this doing, as long as you're getting like 3+ damage, I think you're happy with it. I think if you're under 3+ damage per hit, you're not going to be really caring enough about Lifedrinker to justify taking it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't guess there's a whole lot more to talk about. It does a thing. And,
it's one line.
Yeah, that's one line. It'd be interesting. Maybe we'll talk about it more on like builds or something.
It'll be one of those things that you tack on to see how much number can go up, right? Like if you're like, how much damage can I stick onto a single weapon attack? If 12 levels in Warlock's a pretty high task to get to. That being said, this has a +5 damage. If you can get like a 24 charisma, that's 7 damage. That's pretty neat. So this is a good reason to also seek out those magic items that bump your charisma to 22. I mean, there's an abundance of reasons to want a 22 charisma, but this is another one.
Yeah, even just 5 damage, that you hit enough times, that really adds up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A 5 is definitely enough. 5 is really excellent. 4 is definitely enough. 3 is like, okay, it's pretty fine. I would really try and bump that charisma though as soon as you can. You definitely still probably prioritize strength because you're always adding that to damage too, or dex, whichever the build option you're going for. If you are all in on the blade stuff, you can also consider like juggling up. If you want to do the more of the martial hybrid caster thing, 1818, 2020, that can be fine. So.
All right, that's Pact of the that's Lifedrinker. You got a rating?
I think it's a pretty solid 3. This is a great enhancement on the multi-attack thing. If you're doing the multi-attack thing and want to hit harder, this helps you hit harder. What's not to love? I don't think it's warping the game or anything like that. You're still giving 2 attacks. It's difficult to get 3rd attacks with your pack blade. So, especially if you D12 levels in Warlock. Well, action surge helps.
Again, I'm looking at this. You already chose pack blade. You got a Pact of the Blade. You got a plan. This is definitely something you want to be part of it. And yeah, that's worth a 4 to me.
You might be right.
All right. Well, that was Lifedrinker. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. Let us know what you think down in the comments, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.